Alright, let's go. Coffee and Carnifexes, episode 4. It's going to be mostly a tournament recap. This video is coming out a little bit later than I anticipated. I had, after having a great weekend, going to a tournament, a Renaissance fair, for my birthday, I was sick over my actual birthday. So great. Monday and Tuesday I was kind of down. After work Wednesday, and I just wanted to give myself another day to see if my voice would get a little bit better. So if I sound more nasally than before, I'm really sorry. I know my audio is not necessarily the best as it is. I don't really have the quietest place to record right now. Sometimes the birds are going to chime in. I also have quite a bit of ambient noise because of all the fans and air purifiers I run in here as well because the birds are so close to me as well here. But let's go. This past Saturday, I played in a 3-game RTT at Heroes Retreat in San Antonio, Texas. It's my second time attending one of their tournaments. It's a little bit of a haul for me, almost a 3-hour drive one way. San Antonio is a really great city. The shop is fantastic. Never I met or played against at the shop has been really great. As well, it's kind of a cool mall. It's a little older of a mall, but most of the shops are like very nerdy, or they're very like goth or horror themed, and I really dig it. There's a few coffee shops there, so you certainly can't go wrong with that. For the events, they were testing missions for the upcoming Alamo GT, which is the weekend of 17th of May. I will not be attending this year, but it was good to participate in a tournament that was essentially practice for a lot of people there for the GT. I ran Crusher Stampede for the first time. Maybe not the best way to try something out. I fear the attachment rule is simple enough, though. My monsters hit and wound better as they get more injured. Plus, the stratagems are really straightforward, and all of them are offensive in nature, aside from Savage Roar, which allows me to give my opponent a -1 to hit in the fight phase. If they fail a battle shock test, they're also at -1 to wound as well. It's a great 1 CP ability, really silly to use for a Norn. They can already take such a beating as is. My first game of the day was against Imperial Guard, which I really liked. My opponent, he actually just moved the text from Pennsylvania, which I thought was really funny because I'm also a native Pennsylvanian. I seem to find us out in the wild, away from our home state every so often. So, personally great to me, but sadly, lists are going to come from memory. I don't pay for the extra Best Ghost pairing features yet. I'm sure I will here in the future. But for my memory here, and look at my photos, he had 2 Russes, 2 Odorans, a Hydra, a Chimera that had some Ogrins in it, Gaunt's Ghost, Aquilians, Slime Arbo, and then Lord Solar, I think it was, with the guy on the horse. And then a unit of 2 artillery batteries, I think it is, or 2 artillery weapons teams. I'm not sure the proper word. A command squad joined to a big infantry blob, and a unit of some Rough Riders with a few sentinels as well. I may be missing a couple things here and there. I really enjoy playing Scar in general too. It's a really fun game. It's always enjoyable. They have a lot of really neat parallels between the two of them, I feel like, here. The mission deployment style was Tipping Point, and the primary was the Ritual. So the 2 No Man's Land objectives had to be made by either player. I am not a fan of the staggered deployment styles. I think the mission rule allow battle line to fall back and still do actions from the mission. I figured now, maybe in the future, I'll try and optimize myself a little better. So I'm using like the Tabletop Tactics app as I'm playing tournaments, so I can kind of track the games a little bit better and have a little bit more information to go off of from memory here. But my opponent deployed vehicle heavy on one flank with Ogrins and Gaunt's Ghost, take up the middle, and 1 Rogue Adorn with the Rough Riders and a big infantry blob with a command unit with a horse guy. Uh, my center was the Nord, of course, and my flank matching his vehicle heavy side was a Tyranifex, Scepter, Exocrine, and the Hive Tyrant all working together with some Hormagaunts to help with objectives. My other flank was the Neurotyrant with Genestealers and a Haruspex. Lictor infiltrating ahead of them on that flank, and then I had a Trigon and my unit Gargoyles in Deep Strike reserves. So my big gun bug flank worked over tanks fairly well. When the Aquilians came down, remember my Biovore, Neurotyrant Tyranno had a new target. The Tyranno positioned himself so he could split fire on the backfield on the Aquilians, and then also still get line of sight on tanks, so that way he could just blast them with the Casino Cannon. My Nord held the center, while the Genestealers and Haruspex moved the other flank, removing the Rough Riders and the Warlord. My Trogon came down in turn 2, mostly as a distraction, and threatened his own objective. One of the big highlights of the game was turn 1 Slime Arbo charged. He charged a Screamer Killer, I'm sorry, turn 1. I only had 2 wins left after the shooting phase. He did nothing and didn't survive. But the hope was he would charge into my deployment zone and survive for a secondary mission that turn. He did not, but it was kind of awesome at the time, though. We only made the turn 3 of the game, sadly, which is probably why I remember the turn sequence so well. It was a great game, though. I'm really glad I got to play someone that was there for the first tournament edition. I was able to share some of the things I've learned coming back to the hobby that could really help him out later. I also did one little sneaky thing. Knowing we got the 30-minute warning during his turn 3 and I still had to go, I popped Shadows in the Warp, which he failed a lot of battle shot test, which prevented a lot of orders and got myself into like a saving position. Had the game gone on for more time, I probably could have pushed him back pretty good. So I ended this game with a score of like 28 to 18, I think it was. It was a low scoring game. We also made the extra objectives late, but it was tons of fun. Our rounds were a bit longer, but it was still a really good game. My second game was against Ultramarines. It was Hammer and Anvil. It's another short table edge deployment with Terraform for primary. I forget what the mission rule was for this one. I think it was the one where like the your battle line could still shoot and do objectives, maybe? I forget now here. But game 2 threw me against both Calgar and Gilliman. I've never played against Gilliman before. Calgar had an honor guard and the aggressors with him. There was one fully ranged out dreadnought, a unit of Furnace Marines, a unit of suppressors, a scout unit, and the rest was all Terminators and I believe a Terminator captain as well. I was really worried going into this game. I've never dealt with a G-Man before. As well, my old experience from 5th and 6th edition tells me, well, Tyranids have a hard time with 2+ saves. He had them in mass. Yes, some bad dice rolls for him can make things go my way really quickly, but I don't bank on this. This game was insanely close the entire time. G-Man, Calgar, and the aggressors wrecked my early turn 2. The flamethrower unit murdered my gargoyles, and turn 2 deep strikes in my backfield threatened my Tyrannifex with 2 5-man Terminator units. So I rapid ingress my Trigon to the back into my backfield, which ended up being the right choice. The Trigon eliminated 1 5-man Terminator unit right away. I believe he put a lot of damage into the remainder of the 10-man unit, and I think he might have took out the other 5-man unit as well in that game. Ingress him ahead. My Genestealers did some work, but they caught a lot of fire in the second turn. I think they got rid of the Scout Squad, put a little damage into the 10-man Terminator unit, and then got worked over. The Broodlord fought solo on for a bit, added some extra wounds in there. The G-Man stood up after going down. I focused a lot of fire into him. The entire game, our scores were neck and neck. At the end, I came out 8 points ahead. And this is with me giving him the painting score, and not myself even know. I won't give it to myself even though I have a 3-color minimum. My stuff isn't fully painted yet. I have a handful of units that need to be finished here, so I will not allow myself to take it here. I squeaked out the win though, and I think I was going to. So I went 2 wins in my 4th tournament in the back end of the game. It was so close though, which I admittedly didn't realize until my opponent started sweating at turn 3. He's like, man, we have the same score. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Here's me. But I do feel Shadows of the Warp was really clutch in this game. They removed some OC and stratagems from key units right at the end of the game when I really needed them to, and got me to squeak out the victory, I believe. My game 3, though, on the other hand, was against World Eaters. He was a really experienced player with this RB. He had played Tyranids a lot in the beginning of the edition. He was telling me that he had over 100 games in with World Eaters at this point. And it's like, we're for just this edition alone. This game was really rough for me. At this point, World Eaters is a big challenge for me. It was one of the first armies I played against coming back into the hobby. It's one of the few factions that seems to outclose combat Tyranids. You have to want to get close like we do. So Tyranid shooting, wants to be kind of close to. It's like mid-range shooting. It's not necessarily across the table all the time. I got wrecked and swept in this game. I was tabled in turn 5, which did get me the special secret mission for the day, which is remember the Alamo. You get 20 points. You get 20 points for being tabled. Kind of a fun historical thing. But I did end this game with more points than my 2 wins, which is really weird for me. But his list had Angron, a few units of 8 bounds, Possessed, a guy in a Juggernaut, Master of Execution with a unit of Berserkers that was in a Rhino, some Jackal units, and a Forge Fiend that was fully plasma out. He was a great opponent, though. He helped me learn some things for competitive play, so it helped me understand the terrain a little bit better. The last game of the day is a bit rough for me. A little bit older, it's a long day already for me, too. I also drive 3 hours first thing in the morning and stop for breakfast on the way. But I feel that game, leave my Gargoyles and Reserves was a huge mistake here. I should have used them to move block instead of let my opponent control the table right away. I didn't expect to get any wins today still, or that tournament still. Let alone pull off 2 wins. I still have less than 20 games of this edition in, which seems to so throw some people off with how I'm performing. I had someone in the comments say me that some people with over 100 games this edition are still going 0-3 at most of their tournaments. And I did play a lot in the past, so maybe it did carry over some from 8 years ago. But I still have a lot to learn and a lot to do better with. Such as, I need to learn when it's good to move block with my Hormagaunts and Gargoyles, or to save them for missions. It did feel good running something that wasn't Invasion Fleet, though. I felt I'm too reliant on the Feel No Pain save I can gain from that detachment. I also feel the crits don't hit enough to be amazing. The Crusher Stampede is so much fun. It has a lot of utility. Having 3 ways in my list to give an opponent a -1 to hit is rather awesome. Granted, 2 of them are close combat only, and one's within 6 inches of a Mallet Scepter, but it's solid. Also, forcing Deadly Demise is just pure fun, and it can inflict decent damage on an enemy. I didn't need to negate cover saves or modifiers of shooting, but I could have. And I used the move through terrain stratagem a few times as well. I didn't use as much as I thought I would, though. There are a few other models I'd like to get for more options still. Right now, I'd like to get like one more regular Lictor, another Exocrine, another Tyranids with the acid spray set out. Just to give me some more options so I can just have that little bit more list diversity, a little bit more play around too. I'm going to eventually grab up some parts of the collection I'm missing, like, a few Carnifexes and old one eye. Let's talk about terrain in this edition. First, let's start with I really like that the game is more terrain dense than ever before. It is great, but why does everything have to be ruins and walls? I do appreciate standardized event terrain, so it's a rather even playing field, but I do feel it's a bit abstract now though. Everywhere seems to have a little different take on it. Um, the biggest one is how places treat first floor ruins. Some say forget the doors and windows, the first floor, like they forget they exist or say they're boarded up. Some like this past weekend went true line of sight with windows and doors. And I think my biggest gripe is I run a fairly monster heavy list in general. It can make moving and positioning challenge. Monsters already have beacons that retire that can work against them. I'm not safe locking them into close combat like I was in previous editions. But then we also can't move them through most terrain in events. So part of this is coming from my lack of experience with this edition, honestly. I came from an era of is it a hill, crater, or air terrain, or line of sight blocking, or like impassable. And tables weren't necessarily terrain dense then either. You maybe had 5 pieces of terrain on the table. Cover saves also worked a lot different. Now it's a +1 to your save. At the time, being when I was playing in the past, a lot of cover saves were a 4+ or a 5-up save. That's why they had the ignore covers rule, which wasn't very common then to negate. And like you get it's from like being on the other side of a hill, like if a hill blocked part of line of sight. You're in a piece of area terrain that was always a 4+ save. Craters, I believe, were like a 5+. And even being behind your own units. So if I had Hormagaunts in front of a Carnifex, and you wanted to shoot the Carnifex, and my Hormagaunt slightly obscured it, I got either a 4 or 5 plus cover save. I forget what it was at that point. So if you pierced my armor all the way, I still had a save. It was ridiculous. It was basically an extra invulnerable save all over the place. So I understand why they don't do that now. Uh, like if you played Orcs, Tyranids, or Guard, it was better than your armor on most of your units. So you were hugging that area terrain. I guess now my only gripe is the movement restrictions really otherwise. I think it's fine in general with the terrain nowadays. Part of me wishes only walls and big objects like statues that might be deemed impassable would block monster and vehicle movements. But I feel with more experience this will be an issue for me. I just need more practice. So far, I really enjoy how this edition plays. I know it came in the middle or the later half of it, so I hope when 11th hits, the game keeps moving in a good direction. I really like the mission structure and the table size and terrain density right now. I feel the game is more dynamic and active than it was in 5th and 6th edition. You can't just sit on the table edge and blast your enemy away. Lists in general seem less spammy than when I was playing it in the past. I mentioned this before, but 5th and 6th edition was like the era of transport, razorback, and flyer spam. I can't speak for 7th through 9th edition, I didn't play them. But from my understanding, like 8th or 9th edition was really alpha strike heavy. I also know that some people don't like the more generalized point values of units. They preferred each upgrade or weapon option having its own point value instead of every option costing the same amount. I feel this is fine. I feel you have enough to manage at the strategic level when it comes to like bigger detachment. I know not everyone has the best attachment options, but if you have like 3 or 4 good ones, or 2 to 3 good ones, you have some options. Choosing when to use your stratagems, managing your CP, and making choices during the game about how you handle primary and secondary missions while also dealing with your opponent's forces. You have so much to worry about. I think it's a mute point picking between a power sword for 15 points or a power fist for 20, for example, on a captain. I just made it point values. I mean, real point values. But overall, like I said, this edition's pretty fun. I really dig it so far. But I think for now, that's really have to say. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next week because I go to a tournament on Mother's Day, which I might. Mother's Pass, so I need to get myself busy that day, so I might see if there's one going on here. But pending that, we're going to really get another topic to talk about here. We'll see. I'll put some thought into it and we'll see where we go from there. But thank you for listening. Thank you for dealing with my terrible voice this week. And you have a wonderful day and go drink some coffee.